Hey guys, back again with another analysis video. So I really hope that you watched the first one already. I hope you paused it a lot and, asked yourself questions and did all kinds of stuff like that. I'm going to go over a song right now. It's not, I guess I could upload this. Yeah, I will upload this. So this is not in the original packet, guys. This is just something I'm going to upload right now. This is Take the A Train. Great tune by Miles Davis. We're going to skip this intro, don't worry about that, but we're going to start right here, and this is going to serve as our introduction to analysis on actual pieces, okay? So, if you remember from the other video, first thing we want to do is figure out what key we're in, okay? I don't see a key signature, so I'm going to assume that we're in the key of either C major, okay? That looks horrible. Okay, let's try that again. We're in the key of C major, or we could be in the key of A minor, right? Because A minor also has no key signature. So here's what I'm going to try to do first to figure out what key I'm in. I'm going to look at the very first chord, and I'm going to look at either the last chord or the last non-parentheses chord. And the reason I say that, guys, is oftentimes in a jazz lead sheet, your last chord of the entire piece, like in the last measure, will be in parentheses to show you that it's set up to get you back to the very first measure. And if we look right here, this is our last measure. Both of those are in parentheses. Those are there, guys, so that when we go back to measure 1, that it sounds good. Like those two chords, D minor 7 going to G7, causes like just the perfect amount of tension to get us back to 1 and have it sound good. So I'm actually going to look right over here and see what I have. And I also have a C chord. So based on my hypothesis, I'm going to assume that we are actually in the key of C major. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, right now is I'm going to kind of find some space to write out all of my stuff that I need to do this. So I know I'm in the key of C, so I'm going to have a C in all my stuff here. And I'm going to write out all my numbers and what their qualities are supposed to be, okay? So that's going to be capital 1, lowercase 2, lowercase 3, 4, 5. You don't have to write this out once you know it really well, but you probably don't know it that well, so you might as well write it out. That's a minor. This is F major 7. Again, guys, a triangle means major 7. If you don't see a triangle or minus at all, it is dominant 7. That's what G is. B is going to be B minor 7 with a flat 5. That's half diminished. And C is triangle 7. Do that to make it a little easier. Okay, so now I have my reference table. So here we go. So I'm going to get this measure. We have a C6 chord. What is C6 again? That just means instead of C major 7, that it's C6. The notes in C major 7 are C, E, G, B, and C6 is C, E, G, A. Okay? The quality is still major, so I really don't have to think about this at all differently, but I'm going to do this just for you guys. Here's what C major 7 sounds like. Here's what C major 6 sounds like. Okay? If you think that still sounds major, then congratulations, you're correct. If you think that it doesn't really matter if it's C6 or C major 7 or C major 9 or whatever, you are also correct. It could be any of those things. The fact that it's major is what is important, so we will call this Roman numeral 1. Okay. Here's where things get interesting. My next chord is D9 with a sharp 11, okay? If we looked at it in our graph, our 2 chord is supposed to be a minor 7 chord, okay? But we don't have that. We have no minus sign, which means this is dominant. And that's not what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to ignore this and come back to it later. Skip down here. D minor 7, great. That's exactly what we want. G7. Let's check that really quick. G7 is in fact the 5 chord. Great. So we're going to put our 5 chord there. And then we have our 1 chord again with another really quick 2, 5. Okay. Let's look at this section. Oh, what do you know? It's exactly the same. Don't know what that is yet. Come back to it later. And 1. I also don't know what this is. All right, let's go back and take a look. So one of the first things you're going to learn about, guys, and I said this in the other video, make sure you have that PDF out. It says analysis notes. It's on Schoology, and it's also in your packet if you came to school. That document, guys, is going to show you a lot of the most common rules that you're going to find that are broken or that get broken throughout analysis, okay? So the first one that we're going to learn about right now is the idea that dominant seventh chords can actually be inserted anywhere, okay? So if we look back at our graph, you know, our only dominant seventh chord that exists naturally is on 5, okay? If it's not Roman numeral 5, it's not supposed to be dominant. But there's a little rule that because dominant chords have so much tension and they have so much power and they have so much dominance, no pun intended, that they technically could exist anywhere, okay? You could have a Roman numeral 1 as dominant. You could have a Roman numeral 2, which is normally minor, as dominant. You could even have a Roman numeral 7, which is usually half diminished, as dominant instead, okay? So if we look at this, that's really all that's happening here. You know, they added a 9th instead of a 7th, and they raised the 11th to add some tension, but really all this is, guys, is this is just a dominant 2 chord. Okay? And the idea of going to a dominant 2 chord, guys, instead of a regular minor 2 chord is obviously to add some tension, right? But usually, if you have a dominant chord of a certain key and then it changes to minor of the same exact key, so like D7 going to D minor 7, the effect of this is that you're prolonging or you're kind of like dragging out the musical like effect that's happening, okay? So for example, if I'm on a major 1 chord like C, you know, and I go to minor 2, which is D minor 7, it kind of just automatically either wants to go to 1 or it wants to go to 5. So watch this. Here's 1, going to minor 2. I'm going to go back to 1. See how that sounds good? Now I'm going to go to 1 again. I'm going to go to 2. Now I'm going to go to 5, which is G7, and back to 1. Okay? So when you're following the rules of the Roman numerals really strictly, guys, it often only has so many choices as to where you can go, because the harmony is so like it has such a strong leading force. So if we take our 2 chord that's normally minor and we swap it out with something way spicier, you know, we're going to get a different sound, but we're also going to have a lot more different doors that can be opened. So here's my 1 chord again. Now I'm going to go to this 2 chord. Ready? Okay, there's a lot of tension there. This doesn't really want to go back to 1. Okay? So let's figure out where this can go. It could probably go to minor 7. Let's hear it. My minor 7 chord. Right? So really, guys, the idea and the function of this chord being somewhat outside of the key and outside of the quality is just an interesting transition to get us from 1 to minor 2, okay? So it's taking 1, putting a mystery thing in there, like it's like we don't want to get to 2 yet. We want to put something else there to make it interesting. That's what it is, okay? And that's what they did there. Now, so that's the one rule I want you guys to understand, is that dominant 7th chords can be substituted anywhere, okay? The other thing that I want you to know is, in addition to them being substituted anywhere, is they can actually help us either modulate or help us transition, okay? So let's look at this C7 right here. C is not supposed to be dominant 7th because we're in the key of C major. So we're changing, in this chord, it's C, E, G, B flat, when in the key of C we don't have B flats. We're supposed to have B naturals, okay? However, guys, 5/7 chords, most of the time, they usually want to go down to 1, okay? Now, even if the 1 in this case is obviously C, but if we're putting our dominant chord in a different key, then that 1 is technically going to be in a different key. So if we look at C7, and we write out C, I want to figure out what C is the 5 of. So I'm going to go back a letter to B flat. That's 4, A would be 3, G would be 2, and then F is 1. So C7 is the 5, that looks really bad, 5 of 1. It's the C7 going to F major. And sure enough, what we have right there is F major. So we're going to write this, guys, is we're going to call this a, just like we did in the first analysis in the other video, we're going to call this a 5 chord still, but it's going to be 5 of 4. Okay, so it's functioning as a 5 chord going to a new 1, but that 1 is technically 4 in the key of C, because F major 7 is 4. Yay! Great. I'm going to erase this stuff, get it out of the way. And again, if we look at our thing at the bottom, guys, our 4 chord should be F major 7, and that's what we have right here, F major 7. So this is normal. This is good. We want that. This C7 is just like a nice way to get there instead. And you can hear it too. If I play this phrase starting from right here, I'll show you guys. Here's what it is if I don't play C7. Here's C6. It goes there just fine. Now I'm going to go play C6, then I'm going to play C7. And you're going to see how C7 has some tension in it that wants to resolve and lead to F major. Okay? So here's that same line. Here's C6. Okay? Now all of a sudden F major 7 feels just so much nicer when we get there. Okay, so going on, that's the whole line for that. D9, we're still in the key of C, right? So we have a dominant 2 again, which again breaks those rules. So we kind of got two things that could happen here. We could have this parallel thing where it's dominant 2 going down to minor 2, like we did in the first line, or it could be this 2, which is actually just a 5 of a different key again, right? So let's see what we got right here. We have D minor 9. So D9 going to D minor 9 is just, going from dominant to minor. And again, guys, it's just extending that quality and it's prolonging what's happening. Because once we get to D minor automatically wants to go to G9, which automatically wants to go to C. So if we put this D minor 9 right here, it would the song would end faster and like our melody wouldn't make as much sense. So here's what that sounds like. I'm going to start right at the B section. Okay. Right there. 1, 2, ready, and. Comes D9. See how the song's not done yet? But once I do this, it wants to go to C again. And sure enough, C is probably what we have on the next page. Bam! Great. So we have dominant 2 going to minor 2 here. I'll erase this really quick. Going to minor 2, going to 5, and this is also 5, okay? G9 or G7 flat 9 or G7 sharp 11 or G7 alt or G13 and blah, blah, blah. It's still a dominant chord. Doesn't matter what quality is, okay? All the extensions are there just to add different kinds of tension. I'll show you those really quick. Here's G7. Here's G7 sharp 11. Here's G7 sharp 5. Here's G7 sharp 5 flat 9. Here's G7 alt. Here's G9. Here's G7 flat 9 sharp 11. Here's G13 flat 9. Another one. Here's D flat over G. Okay. All of these things, guys, are just huge tension chords that are just going from 5 to 1. That's all they're doing. So when you see these, it doesn't really matter if the flat 9 is there or not. It doesn't matter at all. As long as it's dominant and as long as it's 5, that's all you need to know. So write 5 7 5 7. Going on, we are in the next page, which is the very same thing as the first page. So this is done. 1, dominant 2, minor 2, 5, and 1. Okay, so let's recap, guys. If we needed to solo on this, what will we need to know? Okay, the majority of the piece is in C major. So if you could play a C major scale on your instrument, you're going to do really well on this piece, okay? Now, there are a few times when we step outside of the key. Do you need to know those separate scales for the chords that are outside of the key? The answer is yes, you do, okay? Because if they're using different notes in the chord that are not in the key of C, and you play notes in the key of C over those chords, it's going to sound freaking terrible. So let's see what it looks like. We have D9 sharp 11 to look at. We have C7 to look at, and that is it. Okay, so let's take a look at these chords. So we need to know C major, and then we need to know the scale that goes with D9 sharp 11 and the one that goes with C7. Okay, so D9 sharp 11 is going to be D, F sharp, A, C, E, G sharp. Okay, C7 is going to be C, E, G, B flat, okay? So what I did there, guys, is just everything we did in September, October, which is where we learned about all the different kind of chords and all their formulas and figure out what notes are in the chords. Now I can create a scale, okay? So I have a D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. I don't have a B yet, and then a C. It doesn't seem like the B is altered in any way, so this is going to be my scale for D9 sharp 11, which is going to be a Mixolydian dominant scale. Oh, sorry, Lydian dominant scale. Sorry. Okay. Okay, dominant scale. And then this one here is just C, E, G, B flat. There's nothing else weird about it, so I'm just going to fill in all the other ones. So this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, which is just a regular dominant or Mixolydian scale. Either one. They're the same exact thing, right? So, to pass this, to be able to solo this, guys, I need to be able to know all the notes of C major really well. And then when I have 2 bars of this D9 sharp 11 chord, I want to be playing my D Lydian dominant chord. And when I have this 1 bar of C7, I want to be playing my C dominant Mixolydian scale, okay? So really, here's what that means. If you want to get really technical and make this really easy for yourself, okay? You're going to play all the white keys the entire time and be having a great time. I'm just going to erase all this so we can see everything easier, okay? Where is it? Okay. All the white keys, right? Having a great time. No problem at all. You play this in your sleep. What you want to do, guys, is you want to kind of star those measures that where the notes are slightly different. So for D9 sharp 11, let's see what's different from our scale there. We have F sharp that's different and a G sharp that's different. Nothing else, okay? And while we're here, the C7 has a B flat in it. So this one, all I want to do is I want to play F sharps here instead of F naturals, and I want to play G sharps instead of G naturals, okay? Everything else in the key of C works here, but I need to play F sharps instead of F naturals, so don't play those and don't play G naturals, okay? Because those are literally not in the chord. They'll sound bad. As soon as I get back to this one, guys, I'm back to all the white keys again. So really, you just have these 2 bars right here where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to focus on F sharp and G sharp. Those are like the unique notes to that chord. And then you're back to all the key of C. Same thing right here, F sharps and G sharps. Okay? Don't play F sharps here. That would sound awful. G sharp, kind of get away with it. G sharp right here would sound kind of cool. F sharp would sound freaking terrible on this chord. Oh my god, don't ever play it. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. And C7. The unique difference between C7 and C6 is just B flat. So just play some B flats there. It'll sound really, really nice. And then don't play B flats here because it's not in the chord and it would sound freaking terrible. Don't do that, okay? We didn't really go over D9. D9's only difference is the F sharp. You still have a regular G in it, so just play F sharps instead of Fs. And then when you get back here, make sure you're playing F naturals, okay? So guys, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of soloing on this, I would give this a 3. And the reason I'd give it a 3 is because you only need to know the key of C, which is very, very easy on almost every instrument. And you got these little spots where you have to kind of break out of the key of C for a little bit, but you're only focusing on two different notes. You're focusing on F sharp and G sharp here, and it's only for 2 measures. If you forget to play those guys and you play the other bad notes instead, you know, this one or this one, it's only going to sound bad for 2 measures, and then everything sounds fine again here from this measure all the way through that line and all the way through that line. Okay? This C7 happens so fast, guys, you might not even want to play the B flat there. You might even just not play it at all or just forget that it's even different, because as soon as you get to F, you're back to regular B naturals, which would sound really good there. Okay? So, today, guys, we learned how to analyze a very easy piece in the key of C. We figured out what scales we need in order to solo over it. And we figured out the first 2 tricky rules, which are, 1, that any Roman numeral can be substituted for a dominant 7th chord, regardless of what it is. So again, guys, any of the stuff we had down there, you know, our 2, 3, and 6 chords are all minor, but turns out any of them can just be swapped out for nominate. Who cares, right? And that you can also, the dominant chords function most of the time as 5 to 1. So they're really just function as transitions. But they can also prolong things. Like when we had the dominant 2 going to minor 2, that was just kind of making the song feel longer in like a good way. So keep those rules handy. Remember them when you get to something and you're like, oh man, I'm in the key of B flat. There's no sharps here. Why does this thing have a sharp in it? It could be that it's borrowed or it's being used as a transition.